In today's episode, I share what to do when people trigger you, why it keeps happening, and how much control you have over future events. Let's get started. Heidi-ho, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Live Mindfully with Laurie Moore podcast. So, Christmas is just around the corner. I think it would be universally beneficial to take a couple of deep, soulful breaths here. So wherever you are, sit up or stand up straight, relax your shoulders, relax the belly, and take the deepest breath in that you have taken all day. Open the mouth and sigh it out. Let's do that 2 more times. Deep breath in, relax the belly, and sigh it out. And last one. Deep breath in. And really sigh this one way out. Pull the belly back toward the spine, getting rid of all of the air out of the lungs. Welcome, welcome. So a little update. I feel like I have started every episode of the last few episodes talking about how exhausted I have been feeling, and I feel like this happens to me more often than it should. I forget that I have an iron deficiency problem because it's not always present in my life. Since I was diagnosed with iron deficiency when I was 16, I see my doctor every 12 to 18 months for a blood test, and if everything comes back fine, I go off my supplements, and if everything is not okay, I go back onto them. And this has been happening for 24 years now. But because I come off my supplements for, up to like 2 years, I forget that I have an iron deficiency problem. And to date, no doctor has been able to adequately explain why my iron does this. They usually say that it comes back to my diet, but I've done all the things they've asked me to do, and that has not made any difference at all. So that doesn't feel like a sufficient enough explanation to me. But it always surprises me that I forget this thing, and my mind takes me on this wild goose chase of, why is this happening? Am I starting to suffer from depression? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough of the things I love? And then I reach this point where I tap into my innate internal knowing, and then I remember, oh, that's right, my iron must be low. I need to go back onto my supplements. And I've been back on my supplements for 2 days, and I feel way better, so much better. And I think this is one of the reasons why I find yoga so fascinating, because yoga is all about mindset. Yoga is all about self-inquiry. It's all about investigating why something doesn't feel right or aligned, and then taking the steps and finding the solutions to mitigate that. So whether that be in the physical body, the energetic body, the mental, the intellectual, or the soul body, yoga is always investigating what is happening within. And one of the things I want to talk about today is how we let things take up space in our mind that we really shouldn't. It serves no purpose in being there. A famous quote of Tony Robbins is, identify your problems, but give your power and energy to solutions. So Christmas is right around the corner, and that means lots and lots of catch-ups and lots of social gatherings and lots of potentially being stuck with individuals that you might not jive so well with. Ram Dass has a hilarious quote: "If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family." Oh, no thanks. Right? I am sure that crossed many a mind right now, but for many of us, Christmas is going to be spent with some of those people who drive you a little bit nuts. And I want to share some tips on how to manage that. The first tip I have is to enter these situations and these events with some strong intentions. And your intention might be, I am cool, calm, and unaffected, or I am present and loving. The second thing you want to do is imagine yourself protected by a bubble, an energetic field that surrounds your entire being. And the reason we want to do this is because when we are in the presence of other people and things, there is an energetic exchange that happens, and we establish a connection with that person simply by being in their presence. But when we have visualized this bubble around us, we have created an invisible protection to shield us from negative energy. And the more you can visualize this bubble, the more effective it's going to be. So you want to think about its color and its size and how it moves when you move. And if you can hold that image in your mind, when you are around energies that feel triggering or impactful, that visualization will come into your mind, and you'll remember that you have a choice of how much you are going to allow that negative energy to enter your field, or is it just going to bounce off that bubble and away from you? So you have a choice to decide how much of that negative energy is going to take up space in the mind and in the body, and you have a choice to not allow any of that in. And that's all the bubble really does. It's just a touch point, a reminder, and you can visualize it bouncing away. In 2018, I had really come to a period in my life where I started to set some strong intentions, and for the first time, they weren't goals around things I wanted to achieve. They were intentions around how I wanted to feel for the year. And at the time, they formed part of my intention setting ritual for the new year. So right now is a great time to do this. I made a couple of promises to myself, and they were, I wanted less family drama, and I wanted to be content. And in order to achieve those things, I needed to shift the way I was doing things, right? Because there is a lot of things in this world that I have absolutely no control over. But I do control how I react. I do get to control whose presence I am in. I am in control of how much I say yes. I do control the trajectory of my life. And so I can live in what I consider to be a very limiting space of all of these annoying and bad things keep happening to me by feeling like I can't control them and they can't change, which is the easier route, by the way. It's easier if everything remains someone else's fault. It's easier, or it at least appears easier, if I just let that stuff take up space and do nothing about it. Or I can live in the space of how am I contributing to all of these annoying, negative, and bad things that are happening. And when I come from that space, that opens up a world of possibilities for me. In fact, it opens up a never-ending opportunity for me to find peace. I truly believe that the greats of this world, the people who have truly found peace, didn't find it because nothing bad and no one bad has ever crossed their road. They found it because they understood that in order to get peace, they needed to make a number of personal changes to what they allowed to enter into the cave of their mind. And initially, this can feel like a much harder, much more challenging option of the two, because this is going to require you to do some personal development work. But I feel like this is what life is screaming at us the most. Wake up. Wake up. And I always think of that scene in Frozen 2 where Anna screams at the giants to wake up and break the bridge so that the water can flow in abundance. We are the giants, and life is urging us to wake up and to be present because we are missing it. And we need to break the bridge of all the negativity that is clogging our water flow. We are allowing too much noise to take up space, too much noise to cloud our thoughts, to exist around and within us. So when we choose this path of discernment, when we choose this path of I'm not going to allow that to trigger me, I'm not going to allow that negativity to enter the cave of my mind, yes, of course, there is work involved. But, probably no more work than you are currently investing in holding all of that junk. The difference in this path is that it is a path away from resistance. It's a path away from pain and punishment. This is the path that leads to peace. This is the path that takes us away from triggers. Time spent on your own personal development is never time wasted. And are you going to get it right every time? Probably not, but that's okay. It's a practice. And so I realized that when I set the intention of having way less family drama in my life, what I realized was that way less drama meant me not being involved or opinionated about how other people in my life did things. I'm still inquisitive. I'm still a great conversationalist, but I'm not invested in the way I was. I'm not interested in helping somone improve their life unless I have been formally invited to do so. And in truth, who am I to say what's right or wrong for that person, or what path is going to lead that person to success? Who am I to be so invested in someone else's journey, in someone else's business? And if I am so invested in their stuff, then that's my energy. I'm not investing in my business, in my life, in my journey. And it took me a really long time to grasp that concept. And in addition to that, I'm not interested in someone giving me unsolicited life advice. I don't think any of us are. And so it's interesting that if you feel like you are constantly being given unsolicited life advice, I invite you to inquire as to how much life advice you might also be giving out. Because we live in a world where everyone does this. And it's so easy to be like, that person is always giving me unsolicited life advice. But it's not so easy to say, am I also doing that to that person or to other people? And so it's not to say we should all stop giving unsolicited life advice. Maybe that forms part of the conversation, but it is to say you get to decide what advice you want to take on and what advice you don't. And you don't owe anyone an explanation either way. You get to decide how much the words impact you when you're in a conversation with someone. And it's not about not listening. There may be some pearls of wisdom tucked away in there, but you get to choose. And if there are certain people who always give advice, and it's not just, and it becomes something that you don't want to take on, start to notice how much you're sharing about your life. We don't have a surplus of energy to defend our choices. So if you're sharing a lot about your life with people who always give advice or always have comments or always have opinions, you're wasting your energy because you're probably spending it on defending your choices where you could have conserved that energy by simply not sharing that information. So we also don't want to be invested in seeking other people's validation on how we live our life, because that might be why you're doing it. You might be oversharing with that particular person because you want their validation, but you're not going to receive it. And that's going to steal your contentment. If your life choices are in alignment with you and your family, that's all that matters. You don't need their validation. Stop over-explaining yourself. Stop justifying your choices. Stop oversharing. Stop opening yourself up to criticism, especially if it is something that triggers you and steals your peace. And if you are stuck in conversation with someone like this, ask them questions. Keep them talking about themselves, and then practice not giving them advice or not judging them. Because if that energy is given out by you, it will be given back by them. And if the questions start coming back to you, practice being vague and not seeking that validation. Practice saying, yeah, life is good. We're just keeping ourselves busy. You know how it is. Avoid specifics. And when you feel that triggering happening within you, notice the feeling, stay connected, stay awake, and then excuse yourself from the conversation. Go and get some water, splash some water on your face. Find someone else to have a conversation with. Don't engage in gossiping about the conversation you were just in. Go and play with some kids. Head outside for some fresh air. Head to the shops for some milk. Let's make up an excuse to get out of there. Take yourself into a quiet room and repeat your intention to yourself 3 times. And include within that, I am safe, I am calm, I am in control of how much this impacts me. Know that you are in charge of what enters the cave of your mind. You are in charge of who you allow in front of you. Reset. Practice deep breathing. And only return to that dining table or that person when you feel calm and in control again. Practice visualizing the return of that energy to them and taking your positive energy back. And then visualize a sword cutting that energetic cord. Imagine your bubble around you again, protecting your energetic field. Triggers, especially in settings like this, it's a mindset. Are you going to take control of what affects you, or are you going to hand your peace over to someone else and let them decide what to do with it? Their opinions don't make them right. Their opinions don't make them wrong. They're just opinions. And so long as you aren't seeking their advice or their validation, they're really just words floating through the air. We decide what has meaning for us. It's really that simple. And when you can grasp that concept, it's so much harder for people's comments or people's behavior to trigger you, because you're never coming into a conversation with expectations. You're never coming into a conversation seeking something from that other person other than connection and catch up. And when you know that there are certain people who do trigger you, that's when you engage in the practices that I've already mentioned. That's when you engage with the intention setting and visualizing that bubble around you and switching your mindset, knowing that you have control in that situation of what you're going to allow to impact you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope there has been some items in there that you can take away and use over the Christmas holiday break so that you enjoy your Christmas and you enjoy your vacation time. I will be back again next week. That'll be my final episode for the year, and then I will take a 2 to 3 week Christmas break with my family. Until then, take good care of yourself.